Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start this video with a story about navigating office politics in a large team. In this scenario, two diligent employees managed a significant portion of the team's workload. However, they faced a challenge when reprimanded by their manager for leaving just a few minutes early one day. Youre Hourly. Your day starts at 8 and ends at 5. So I used to work for a large team with like 25 staffers, 6 supervisors, a manager, and a director. The manager was a blonde woman in her mid-30s whose only discernible qualification was being an attractive blonde woman in her mid-30s. She was like Regina George, except she signed your paycheck, so we put up with it. The team was going through a transition from having old-timers retire and hiring new staff, so for like the first year and a half, I don't think we ever left on time. OT was pretty much a given, but towards the end of our second year, my buddy and I, we started the same day, noticed things are slowing down. We're catching up on the workloads and people are starting to leave on time. One day we finish all of our work, help out a few other teammates finish their work, and get pulled into an office with the director to get some praise and recognition. On cloud 9, we get back to our desks, pack up, and leave a few minutes early, feeling good about a solid day's work. We got written up. The next day, we got chewed out by the manager. She reminded us of our start and end time. You're hourly and your shift starts at 8 and ends at 9. You can't leave early just because you feel like it. We received a lengthy diatribe about being a team player and staying until the work is done, blah, blah, blah. It was unfortunate timing because the reason the director had pulled us into a meeting the day before was to congratulate us on our hard work. Turns out that management had done some metrics testing and figured out that 2 people on the team of 25 individual contributors were doing about 12% of the total work done, each. So the 2 of us were doing a quarter of the work of the entire team. Our manager had not yet been privy to that knowledge. Armed with the knowledge that everyone was liking their work to last the full day, we decided that for the next month, we would both work at the pace of everyone else. But damn it, we'd be at our desks at 8 and wouldn't leave until 5. Most days, we were done about an hour early and then twiddled our thumbs looking at blank screens from about 4:30 till 5. We even stayed a few minutes past 5. About 3 weeks in, our manager even effing commends us on our hard work. LOL. About 2 weeks later, that month's metrics results come in and numbers were down. Turns out we were now doing about the same as everyone else and the team was not hitting its figures. Our manager had to have known what we were doing, but what was she going to say? They aren't picking up everyone else's slack anymore? So she tries to F us over another way. I was a few minutes late one day, she effing wrote me up. Mind you, some of her supervisors would show up late on a daily basis, but I'm an Edmond Dantes kind of guy. I'm cool with that long-haul revenge. I started to show up early and would sit at my desk with the computer screen still locked until exactly 8 a.m. And this went on for about a week before the director had enough and came up to my desk and asked me what the F I was doing. I explained that my manager wrote me up for leaving a few minutes earlier and wrote me up for being a few minutes late, so I'm just making sure I'm never late, as she explained to me that I am hourly and my shift starts at 8. I don't know if he thought the offices were soundproof or just didn't care, but the reaming he gave her was like listening to Beethoven's Ninth played by the Vienna Philharmonic. And our second story. If you want the AC down, then you pay the light bill. This happened a few years back when I lived with my mom. I was 18 and just graduated. I live in Texas, so the summer basically stays at 100+ degrees the entire time, and I'd always fought with my mom to lower the air conditioning to at least 76 degrees or 24 Celsius. She had it at 80 or 26 degrees. Her response was always the same. If you want it lower, then pay the light bill. She, of course, knew I didn't have money since I was paying my car, and the majority of my check went to that, plus insurance. I was burning up. What made matters worse is I started working in a supermarket and my department was freezers. When I got out of work, I was melting from the heat and my house felt like an oven. Now, my boss liked me. I was a hard worker and I was that employee who always answered the phone on his days off and picked up extra shifts. I never asked for help and never complained, and he started to cross-train me in other departments. One day, one of the supervisors quit and my boss offered me the position. It was an $8 pay raise. I took that in a heartbeat. I now found myself with a ton, according to my 18-year-old self, money. When I got my first paycheck, now as a supervisor, I offered to pay the light bill for my mom. She was so excited that I decided to help her with a payment because now she would have extra money to spend. Perfect. At first, I didn't change anything. Knowing my mom, it was going to be a matter of time before she bought something she couldn't afford before. I wanted her to do that so I'd have the upper hand when it came time to argue about the temperature of the house. A week later, she came to the house with a new Mercedes. She had made mention that she could now afford it, but I didn't think she'd go and buy it a week later. I lowered the air to 68/20 degrees immediately. She didn't say anything at first, but at night she started to complain that it was way too cold and wanted to raise the temperature. I told her no. When she asked why not, I said, because I pay the bill and I want it at that temperature. That's when it dawned on her. She's now making a bigger car payment, so she can't afford to pay the electric bill anymore and is codependent on me to do so. She didn't even open her mouth because she knew she wouldn't win this fight. I'm not completely evil, though. I bought her a Snuggie with my next paycheck, which she still uses to this day, and raised the temperature to 72/22 degrees, which she was okay with. I also learned a valuable lesson on how expensive the light bill can get. Your mom sure knows around money. 1 week not paying the bill, and she now thinks she can afford a Benz, which costs so much that she can't pay the bill? No wonder people are in lifelong debt. And our next story. You want me to follow the wrong instructions for doing my job? Okay, let's see how this ends. This is about 20 years ago. I joined a project and developed the job role. I created the processes and even built some software tools. Then, for about 18 months, I worked on the project in that role. The company decided to send in a load of process engineers to document everything so that they have a very clear how-tos. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, then the company can easily recover. Very sensible move. For a week or so, I was shadowed by a process engineer as he documented everything I did, and it included interviews and reviews. All standard stuff. I expected to have something to review and approve, and nothing came. Sometime later, I was given a role review with an interview at the end. It did not go well. Basically, I was told that I was failing to do my job properly and put under RA remedial action. The problem was that I was not following the PI, process instruction, on how to do my job. I read the PI and it completely failed to capture how I did the job. This was the first time that I had seen it. It had been approved, authorized, and issued without me seeing it. So, in order to get out of the remedial action, I followed it to the letter. By the end of the month, things had gotten serious. My downstream customers were either getting the wrong data, incomplete data, or no data. Their dependencies were incomplete, and so their downstream were having problems. The whole data flow was wrong or stopped. I was called in for a chat by one of the directors where I pointed out that I followed the PI to the letter as I was told because of the RA. The PI was wrong, but I was not on the approval loop. RAs are serious because if you fail, then it's disciplinary action time or even a sacking. He hit the roof. The crap hit the fan and an investigation was started. It seems that the process team were fed up with people rejecting the PIs for their own jobs as being wrong, so they just cut them out of the approval loop. This allowed the process engineering lead to hit all his targets and get his performance bonus. The result was that my RA order was removed from my HR file. I reviewed and fixed the PI for my job. The process engineering lead was disciplined and put on his own RA. He left shortly after. Rumor has it that he had to repay the performance bonus as well. And our next story. HOA demands $8,000 for fence. HOA got my husband for putting his yoga mat in our patio fence. Fine, fair enough. But then they noticed our tree. This woman hated the species, a Brazilian pepper tree. She demanded that we remove it. Mind you, it had been very well maintained and was quite beautiful. Anyway, she said some branches were hanging over the fence boundary, so we trimmed them. Then she said it was taller than the roof. We got a drone and took pictures that showed that was not the case. Then she said there were exposed roots that came under the fence onto the shared lawn. I photographed other neighbors whose trees did the same thing. We kept having to go to their stupid meeting each time. Then they claimed the fence had bowed because of the tree and claimed that we needed to pay them $8,000 to replace it because it had just been replaced. My husband went and argued that the fence was at least 29 years old, that he had requested to have the fence replaced because of termite damage, but that they said termites are normal in California and declined. So it needed to be replaced anyway. And there was an easy way to accommodate the tree. He also said that this tree was an unusually good source for pollen for bees. The whole tree was abuzz with them twice a year, and that the number one cause for bee population decrease was loss of habitat, and cutting this tree down would contribute to that. He also argued that the term invasive species had xenophobic roots and is more of a subjective term than a scientific one. They were caught off guard, and they all agreed during the meeting that we could work something out. By this time, we were sick of dealing with them. We were moving and going to rent the condo out anyway, so we decided to cut it down. A month or so later, we got a letter from an attorney saying that we had to cut it down or they would remove it for us and charge us, and that we had to pay the $225 for the cost of the attorney. We went and argued that the tree had been gone for a month and that they should get a life. I really like that tree. F those jerks for making us cut it down. And our last story. Old lady forgets her bank card, nice lady saves the day. I currently work as a cashier at a major grocery store chain in the Pacific Northwest. Believe it or not, I'd just been hired the previous week, and this happened yesterday on my first shift on the registers, after the mandatory training on the computers in the office. So this happened towards the end of my shift. It was fairly slow, and I was the only cashier at the time, somehow. This sweet old lady, OL, walked up and informed me that she'd have to pay by check because she left her bank card at home. I told her that was perfectly fine, but I'd need to call my supervisor over to show me how to use the check scanner since I'd never done it before. She agreed, and I rang her up uneventfully. My supervisor comes over, and they get the check made out to the right company for the right amount, and she shows me how to scan it into the system. A message pops up on the register informing me that I need to check her ID and input the driver's license number. I inform her of such, and she seems upset, but not angry. Dialogue is paraphrased, but as close to what was said as I can remember. Oh well, but I left it at home with my bank card. I remember I keep them in a small plastic box so they're together. S. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Unfortunately, there's no way to bypass this on the computer. Do you remember your driver's license number by chance? Oh well, shakes head, seeming sad. I'm just sort of standing back with the best sympathetic smile. My manager seems to have things handled, even though there's not much we can do. It's at this point that the customer in line behind OL speaks up. NL, nice lady. If you want to make the check out to me, I can pay with my bank card. OL, cheering up, would you? That'd be wonderful. NL, yeah, I don't want to make you go all the way home and have to come back just to buy some groceries. OL, thank you so much. OL steps to one side to let NL put her card in the pin pad. Meanwhile, she makes out the check to NL. Once the payment goes through, I hand OL the receipt, wish her a pleasant evening, and start scanning NL's stuff. OL hands NL the finished check, thanks her again, and leaves. S and I both thank NL, and she says something along the lines of, she seemed like a safe bet. I compliment NL on her good deed for the day, and the rest of the shift goes by smoothly. S tells me as I clock out that I did really well for a first day. I'd worked as a cashier before, just never at a grocery store, and asks if I'm coming in tomorrow. I tell her my next shift, grab some groceries of my own, wish S a good night on my way out, and head home. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.